In this video, we're going to make our own custom animated hand-drawn maps for you to use in programs like After Effects to reveal certain pieces of footage. So I've always wondered how people did this with like paint strokes and things, and then it just hit me, why don't I just do this in Photoshop with a tablet or the pen tool and some brushes, and it worked out pretty well. While you could do this with a mouse, it is a lot easier if you have some sort of tablet. Maybe you could do this on an iPad. These are the tools I have, so this is what I'm going to use. So I have my tablet, Wacom tablet. I ended up making a lot of these for this project that you see here for an Easter video back in April. So this whole project is available on our site or the link below. Then I also took all of those mats that we made, and I made this is more of a generic broad slideshow that you see here, where you can drop in your own photos and build and mix and match, or just use the mats as is. So you can also see this whole project at a link below and purchase that as well. But if you want to learn how to do this yourself and make your own versions of these, this is how I did it. So the first thing I'm going to do is open up Photoshop. Like I said before, you could do this with a mouse, but it is much easier and more organic looking and natural looking if you have some sort of pen or tablet to use. We're going to make a new document. I'm doing 3840 by 2160, so 4K at 300 pixels per square inch. All this here is good. Create. So I'm just going to make a new layer with Shift Command N, hit OK, just so now it's a nice blank layer here. Now at this point, we're going to want to explore the brushes that we have available. So I'm going to hit B on the keyboard for my brush tool, and you'll see you get this little icon here. And if I draw, you can see I'm making some marks right here. But what I want to do is access a lot of brushes that are available to us through the Adobe site that we can play around with. So I'm going to go up to the top where my little brush setting is here. I'm going to drop this little menu down, and then I'm going to go to this little settings button here. I'm going to go to get more brushes right here. So this is going to open up a site that has a ton of options for your brushes. You have all these different packs, so you can scroll through these and pick through some different brushes here. Tons of things to play with and mix and match. So I've already downloaded these, but you can just click on this mega pack. It has a ton here, but feel free to grab all these different ones here. But what's going to happen, we're going to download that. That's going to come as an ABR file. So you may want to install that brush file in your Adobe folder. So what you can do is I'm just going to go to downloads. This is the mega pack. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go to my local disk where the Adobe programs are. And we're going to go to the Photoshop file, and let's see, presets maybe, and then brushes, and you can drop them in there as well right there. So you can just paste that file into here, and now we can go back to Photoshop, and you can go up to the that brush tab again. And now I think we can do import brushes. And then you're going to want to find that mega pack file, and that will install. And so that should drop in pretty much like this little folder here. I have a bunch of other ones here. Running Inkers is another one from that site. So a lot of options here. So let's go to the mega pack, and let's just click on maybe this one here, draw it out a little bit, and then just kind of go through and find the one you want to play with. So I was using some pretty big brushes. These are small, but you can bump up the size. I use the bracket tools on the keyboard, and we can draw them like this. I don't really like that one a whole lot. So you kind of have to experiment with which ones you want to use. And it'll kind of tell you what it is. So it's kind of a pencil shape here. This is a typical brush. Then there's some other like smudges and some mixing brushes. So I'm just going to click on another one. Let's see what happens. So here's one here that I like, Delicious or something like that. So I bumped up the size a little bit. It's kind of got a really dry brush look. And then you can change your flow settings, and it'll even make it kind of less filled in. If I crank that all the way up to 100, you can see it's a little more filled in there. So now what I would do is, what I don't want to happen is I don't want my cursor to be seen on here. So you can hit the caps lock key, and that will go away. And for me, I have a recording system called Bandicam, and you can have the option to turn off your cursor so it doesn't record your cursor, which is what I do. So you would need some sort of screen capturing software. A lot of computers already have that as an option, or you can find some free options as well. But this one, Bandicam, is what I use, so I can turn off this little cursor. But this cursor is pretty small, and so a lot of times it's going so fast that you won't even see it anyways. So what I'm going to do is I would set up my recording to just kind of record this section of the screen. Probably make sure I'm zoomed in as much as I can, because I want to keep as much resolution as I can. So let's just go with this for now. So I'm going to hit B on the keyboard. So I would start the recording for whatever screen capture system you're using, and then I'm just going to start painting in right here. And again, you can go nice and slow. You can go really fast, because again, you can ramp this up later on inside of After Effects. And now I'm going to move from the mouse to my tablet here, and now I can just get a little more natural movement. So I'm just going to start at the top corner and just kind of work my way diagonally down to the bottom. And you can take nice long time to do this, again, because you can speed it up in After Effects. So I'm just going to go back and forth as much as I can, trying to keep it relatively straight. But again, it doesn't have to be perfect. This is all just an organic vibe to it. Now you can see that it's not really filling in all the way, and that's okay because I'm going to basically duplicate this mask to where it will just start copying in on itself as well. So again, I'll show you all that in After Effects. I want to be as consistent as I can all the way to the end. And we could go back through and sort of paint in some of those bigger areas there. So once it's filled in, I would stop the recording and then I would grab that same clip and drag it into After Effects. So with After Effects open, I'm going to do a new composition. We'll do 3840 by 2160. Now we're going to have to scale it up a little bit just because our screen cap is a little smaller, but that's okay. So I'm going to import one that I've already done. I can't really import this one as I'm still recording in real time, but we'll just bring in one that's also super similar. Okay, so file import or Command I in your project manager window, and you can bring in your own file. So I have this one here that I recorded, so you can see it says Bandicam, and this was the a date on it. And now if I drag this down into my composition, we're going to see I have my Photoshop layout here. And again, this was one I did a while back. So I'm going to find that starting point. It's going to be somewhere around here. You can see it kind of in that top corner. So I'm just going to cut this here with Shift Command D and delete that one. Don't need that anymore. And I'm going to scoot forward a little bit to the very end. And again, this can take a long time as far as the seconds go, because I need to make my composition a little bit longer. So composition settings, we'll bump this to a minute. So I just want to find the end. And again, I recorded this over maybe 40 seconds trying to get it just right. So let's say somewhere about here. I keep going, I think, all the way until it's completely black, but let's go here for an example. So I'm going to cut this as well. I don't need any of this. So this is my entire clip here. So now what I want to do is zoom in a little bit so that I can fill my entire frame. So I'm going to just hit S on the keyboard. I'm going to scale this up somewhere on here. This kind of reposition just to make sure that I don't have any part of the frame being visible on the outside. So maybe like 145. Let's just go with that. Okay, let's scoot this down to the end here as well. So now my screen wipe goes all the way across. Now, like I said before, you may have some of these small white spots here. So what I would do is I would take this and I would duplicate my layer. So Command D to duplicate. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide it down a little bit to the right, so that now this one starts and then this one's going to start about 5 seconds later. And what I would want to do is also kind of reposition it some. So let's go maybe down here somewhere. I want to reposition this, but I also want to do a blending mode. So I think I maybe want to do add or multiply. Let's see which one works. Let's go with multiply. And now it's an exact copy. So what I want to do is sort of click and maybe shift my background a little bit. So now I'm getting one that is, it's just sort of offset a little bit and it's starting to fill in those darker spots. So if I go all the way to the end, let's see what we're looking at here. So this one's pretty much filled in. At this point, I would probably just add a new layer, like a new solid, and make it all black. And then I would just have it fade in just to fill in those last little spots. So I changed my opacity from 100 to 0 or 0 to 100 over those last few seconds right around here. All right, so from 0 to 45 or 50, 47, something like that is about the entire thing. My entire screen is black. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit N on the keyboard to move my bracket down here. And then I'm going to right click and do trim comp to work area. And so now this is my full mask here. Problem is it's 49 seconds long. So I'm going to take this composition, I'm going to drag it into another comp right here. And then I'm going to do just a time remap. So I'm going to right click on it and go to time. And I'm going to go to enable time remapping. And now I want to take this little dot down here, this little diamond, this keyframe, and I'm going to drag it all the way down to like 4 seconds. Okay. And so now it should be pretty much black right here, about 4 seconds. And there you go. Once I did a lot of these, I ended up just setting this as my main animation. And then I would export this as like a high-res MP4 so that I would have just a video file of it, so it's not having to process the multiplying blending modes and the time remapping. It's just sort of one final file. And all of those MP4s and exported files are already in the packages that I talked about earlier. But let's assume this is my final file. Let me drag in 2 photos and show you how to blend the 2 together. So I'm going to do Command I and bring in some photos. So I'm going to take the one of this group of friends here and maybe these sunglasses. And I'm going to import those. So we'll make a new composition. We'll call this, that's fine there. We'll just keep that same. We'll just call this slideshow. I'm gonna bring in my photo here. So we have our friends laughing it up on the mountainside. And then I'm gonna bring in this photo here of kayaker, rotate that a little bit, and there we go. All right, so now we want to bring in our actual mask. So if you export it, you can just bring in that file, or we're just going to call this mask right here. Like this is our final little 6-second option there. There we go. All right, so I'm going to drag this mask down into my composition. Now we can see our file right here. Now with masks, you do want to make sure that they last the length that you need them to. So for instance, if I use this mask as a clipping mask for, or a track matte for one of these images, then it's going to disappear and my image is going to disappear because my layer ends here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and go to that time remap again and go to enable time remapping. And now I can stretch this out. But now I'm going to go in here and make sure that my final, my first frame is fully white and my last frame is completely black. Sometimes it's tricky. I have this transparency clicked on. And so I want to make sure that this is actually going to be black. And so right here, this keyframe actually turns it off. So I'm going to come just right here. I'm going to set a new keyframe and we'll delete this one. And now transitions and it's all the way to black there. All right, so now it's ready to go. So we have our mask here. So what's good about the time remapping is you can kind of move this around and now everything before the keyframes are going to be white and everything after the keyframes will be black, and the animation happens in between here. So you can kind of speed that up or slow it down all with these keyframes. So I'm going to put my playhead right on top of this here, maybe a little bit here so we can see. All right, and now what I want to do is we're going to have this image transition to this image here. So what you want to do is under the track matte settings here, we're going to pick whip this up to the mask layer, and that's going to immediately set it to an alpha matte, and that's not what we want because it's black and white. There is no alpha here, so you want to use a luma matte in order for it to cancel out the black or the white. So I have this little button right here. This is currently set to alpha, so I'm going to change that by just clicking on it to luma, and now you can see right here we have it's starting to transition right there. So if I scrub my mouse here, maybe if I want to just kind of preview this little section here and see what happens. Let's hit spacebar to preview it. Okay, so as it plays back, you can see it transitioning there and using those brush strokes to reveal this image. Now, to make this, give it a little more depth, what I did in the slideshow version is I duplicated my mask here. Let's just duplicate this one. And I'm going to make a new layer, and we're going to call this just going to be a solid layer, and we can make this whatever color. So let's make this like a some sort of bluish color or something like that. Okay, I'm going to hit OK and hit OK here. So now we're going to take our new mask and we're going to link our color to that new mask. So I'm going to go to that track matte, tell it to use this mask instead. So we can maybe go in here and hit mask 2, and we can click here, hit enter mask 1. Okay, and now let's see, we need to change that again to the luma. And now we're revealing that color right there. And now what I want to do is take that color layer, I'm going to put it below the photo, or actually in between the two photos here. So just like that. So you can sort of see that blue color in the back down there. Let me make that maybe a different color and we'll make it like a bright orange so you can really see the difference there. So it's right there. And so now what I want to do is I want to offset my mask number 2 to be just like a frame or two ahead or really behind, I guess, of the other one. So I'm going to click and drag my mask 2 over to the right. And now you get this extra little layer here. So if I go back and watch this, you'll see it just has a little bit more depth to it. So I'm going to hit spacebar to watch that back. So it's quickly revealing that orange one, but the other one's coming in on top of it. And so you just kind of get an extra layered option there. So really, that's about it. So a quick recap, go to Photoshop, download some of those brushes, find the ones you like, use maybe a pen tool if you have it or a tablet, just draw it in from black and white. Black and white is super important. You want to make sure that you have completely black and completely white. Screen cap that if you can, and then bring that into After Effects, drop that in, trim it up to where you have the very beginning of the animation to the very end of the animation, scale it up to fit, time remap it as you need, and then drop it into a composition with your photos or videos or whatever you want in order to get your final output just like that. So I hope this video helps you make your own, but if you don't want to, you can grab the full Easter project that we did if you want to use it for your church. This is what we make a lot of content for, but we also made that very generic slideshow where you can mix and match. It comes with all the alpha mattes, I think 26 transitions. It comes with some arrows and hearts and stars and shapes and things. So we have that built for you if you'd like. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did, and we will see you on the next one.